Hey y'all, let me take you back to the end of 2016. So I got laid off from my job at Zillow in September of 2015 and decided the next day that I was going to work for myself. So I picked up a bunch of SEO consulting work and I decided I was going to build my lead generation company. At the time it was called HireGun, but I rebranded it to Credo a few months later because I got a cease and desist the day before Thanksgiving of 2015, 2 months after I got laid off from my job and had to rebrand it. I was unknowingly squatting on someone else's trademark. So the lumps we all take as an entrepreneur, I just happened to take mine 2 months in. So at the end of 2016, my wife and I were moving from San Francisco to Denver, where we still live almost 9 years later. Though life looks very different now, a couple kids and house and all that sort of stuff. I got to the end of 2016 and I had rolled out a new business model about April of 2016 and had told myself that I wasn't going to go to MozCon that year because I was going to MozCon every year at that point, and told myself I wasn't going to go unless we were doing six figures. And we got to about 7,500 bucks. And a couple weeks before, I was like, screw it. I'm going to go. A friend who was speaking gave me their guest ticket. And so I shared a house with a friend and I went. And actually, the first day of MozCon, we hit that 8,333 a month level, which meant I had a six-figure business. And then from September to December, things just took off. I went from that number to about 18,000 a month, literally in 3 months, something like that. And I was so stressed. Like demand was off the charts. I didn't have the leads to fulfill them. Technology was failing, like super, super stressed out. And I realized that we had a certain number of clients that we could deliver work for and not more. So my business model was broken and I was just like, I was stuck. I was like turning away calls and people were getting mad at me. And it was a whole bunch of terrible. But we were stuck at 18K. Like I could have kept signing people on, but it would have just churned out the back and it wouldn't have made sense. So I caught a tiger by the tail, which is great. But it didn't do me any good. So today I want to tell you exactly what I did to get unstuck from there. If you're kind of stuck in this like 15 to 20K, there's a couple of things that you need to do. Number one, I got time back. And number two, I got profit back in the business. So let me share about each one of those. I'm John Doherty. I coach agency owners. I'm giving you everything that I know and everything that I've been through. But if you want help, implementing it in your own business, in your own life, and even taking your agency to the next level, like my goal is to get you to $500,000+ a year in revenue. So if that's you, go to johnfdoherty.com/coaching. And I would love to speak with you there. And if you want to, go over to Instagram.com/DohertyJF, and DM me the word magic offer, one word, magic offer. And I will send you the PDF that I work with my private clients through to outline the offer that they should be making to their clients that are going to get more of them to say yes at a premium price. The first one is I ended up hiring my first coach. His name is Andy. He was living up in Boulder at the time, and I found him by a free online summit that he and his co-founder at the time had put together, a bootstrapped web summit, bootstrapped business summit. At the time, I identified as a bootstrapped, tech business. Bootstrapped was like a big thing back then. So I ended up hiring Andy, and I remember I drove from Denver up to Boulder. So Boulder is about 30 minutes away. It's that way from where I am now. And so I drove up there and we did a half day or maybe even a full day dive. I don't quite remember. He got to know my business. But the big one that we did was we audited my time so that we could see where was I putting my time? What was I spending it on? How much value is that? And how much energy did it give me? And the second thing we did was we reworked my offer and we raised my prices. We looked at where I was spending my time in 30-minute increments across the previous 2 weeks. I recommend doing 2 weeks, 3 weeks if you can, but that's kind of over delivering. 2 weeks is kind of the sweet spot. A week, stuff can get weird, right? If kids get sick or something happens, you go on a business trip. But 2 weeks is about right because stuff kind of averages out over the course of 2 weeks. Then we basically put down how valuable it was to the business, right? Like a 1 to 4, and then how much energy it gave me 1 to 4. I think we actually did a 0 to 4 scale because if something wasn't valuable at all, we wanted it to be a 0. If it was super, super valuable, marketing or whatever, then we needed to put it as a 4. And then we put how much energy it gave me, and then we summed up the amount of time that it took. And so basically what we did is we ordered it by how valuable it is and then how much you enjoyed doing it, how much energy it gave me. And then we eliminated anything that didn't need to be done. Like that's always step one. You're definitely doing things in your agency that you don't need to be doing. So just identify them and chop them. You'll probably find half a day or something like that you can free up. If you have like no time right now in your business, then that's going to be huge. The next thing we did was we identified the lower leverage tasks that also didn't give me any energy, right? And so basically we said, okay, these are the things that we're going to hire for first. So we didn't like just go and hire someone right then, but it's like, let's start putting together what it could look like to have a VA, an EA, even just like a service that you could hand off like random tasks to, right? I mean, AI is another one, right? Where could you use AI, I guess, in this day and age? This was 2016, 2017. So AI wasn't even a thing there. Basically, what we set out was a plan to slide my energy from doing all these things which were not super valuable to things that are super valuable and also gave me energy, and then hire forward in the middle. So cut out the things that you don't need to do first, and then set out a plan for offloading the tasks that you should not be doing yourself. Of course, it's hard to hire someone if you don't have any profit and you don't have any cash. And this is something that I've been hearing a lot actually from agency owners. And I'll be completely honest that I had kind of forgotten that this is something that happens right around that stage. Even though I just went through it again a couple years ago, right? I did it with Credo and then I did it with Editor Ninja. But I guess with Editor Ninja, I knew what I was doing. And so I could identify it pretty quickly and we got through it. I had cash in the bank and I did it by hiring a full-time head of operations who took a ton of time off of my plate so I could focus more on marketing and sales. And we ended up, over doubling the business in about the next 12 months. Think about it like a video game. First time you're going to beat a boss, you don't know what you're doing, right? So you're going to die a few times. And then once you've beaten them, then you know exactly what to do. And then you get to the next boss, the next boss, and the next boss. So this is kind of the first boss. The very first boss is getting to 100K. The next boss is getting past this about $250,000 a year mark. And then, on and on from there. So once you get your time back, right? Because you have to have time in order to go and actually do any lead gen, sales, sign on new clients, et cetera. Because if you don't have any more time, you're not going to grow into more pain, right? And so you might think that you need more leads because you're afraid that you're not going to have qualified pipeline, and you're right, but you don't have the time to go and get more leads, and you don't have time to talk to those people, and you don't have time to build a wait list and all of that. So you have to get time back in your life, but part of the way we get time back in your life is to get profit back in your business. I was listening to a story a while ago, Alex Hormozy, the business guy, the entrepreneur. He was telling a story about he and his wife were at this fundraiser, right? I think it was at Arnold Schwarzenegger's house. So they're big donors to this organization that Arnold was involved in. And so Alex and Layla showed up, and it's like all these like big wigs and whatever. One of the guys that was hosting it came up to them and then introduced them to this guy, who was like the biggest donor or something like that. And the guy was like, this is Alex and Layla. They're donating $1 million tonight. And that guy was like, insanely wealthy. And basically he and Alex got to talking. The guy was kind of few on words, but the guy said something that resonated with Alex, which was, when demand is high, cut supply. And I kept thinking about this. Like, business is just a math problem in a lot of ways. Obviously, we've already talked about like the psychology and your time and that sort of stuff. And we all have our hangups around hiring and pricing and selling and all of those things. But at the end of the day, business models, at least, are all about math. The way I think about it is, if you double your prices, are you going to lose half of your clients? So maybe you're hearing me say double prices and you're just like, oh my God, there's no way I could do it. Trust me, you almost definitely can. If you're currently maxed out and you also can't take a pay cut, which is another option. I've done that before. It's not super fun. I got to be honest with you. I kind of wish I hadn't done it. Think about it this way, just to get started. If you doubled your prices, would you lose half of your clients? If no, then mathematically doubling your prices is the right move. It's not gonna be fun to have those conversations. And yes, you are going to lose some clients and that's not going to feel good. But if you're making 100 grand from say 10 clients, you're charging them 10 grand each. And if you were full, you should be making 200 grand. If you start charging them 20 grand and you only lose 3, now you're making 140 grand. So you're making 40 grand more, right? And you also have the time that you were spending on those 3 clients that have now churned to work on marketing and sales and hiring, or just take a little bit more profit and have a little bit more time in your life, which is also super cool. So you have to raise your rates. And if you raise your rates, you're going to get that profit and you're going to be able to hire, right? Which is also going to get your time back. So then you can spend more time on marketing and sales, et cetera. So as you can see, it's kind of a circle and it spins, right? So we're starting to spin that flywheel. This is the agency growth flywheel here, and it starts with time and profit. So to continue the story with Credo, I actually ended up raising my rates by 10 to 17x. Like, when I tell people that, it sounds crazy. I like leading with the 17x number. And that number is actually lower than it actually was, because when I first approached Andy, our bottom offer was $100 a month. Our top offer was $500 a month. By the end of that business, by the time I sold it, our minimum was $1,700 a month and our top was $4,999 a month. So 17x the bottom one, 10x the top one, but that's also low because we also got commission on deals that the agencies close. They were paying us for leads and we sent them, we sent them introductions, we scheduled the calls, and then when they closed, we got a commission. At the end, we got half of the first month. So there were times that, an agency was paying us $5,000 a month and they'd pay us another $8,000 in commissions because they closed $16,000 worth of work that month. So, pretty sweet. I think our top clients were paying us somewhere like 100K, something like that a year. And that was up from 6K. So pretty big increase, right? So one thing I want you to keep in mind when it comes to pricing is that your pricing should not be what you think that your time is worth. You've probably gone and done the math, and I actually went and did this math today with someone that they were telling me that they're full. And so we were talking about where do they need to raise their rates to? So I'm just going to pull it up on my iPad because we actually, we sketched it out this morning. So their goal is that they want to make $300,000 a year. They only want to bill 30 hours a week, and they only want to work 40 weeks a year. It says 1,200 hours a year that they want to bill to make 300K. So that number comes out to 250, right? $250 an hour is their bare minimum of what they should be charging based off of how much they want to make. Now, that's one way to do it, but that only kind of covers your costs. You're not going to get wealthy off of that, right? You're not going to make outsized returns, charge outsized rates by just doing that and saying like, this is what my time is worth, regardless of how much the value is to your clients. Like if your client is going to go make an extra $1 million from the work that you do, and they're happy to pay you $100,000, why would you only charge them $25,000? $25,000 isn't even fair in that case. They're getting an insane deal, but it's not fair to you, right? They should be paying somewhere like $100,000. But if you say like, okay, it's only going to take me 100 hours to get them that extra, and you're charging $250 an hour, they're only going to pay you 25 grand. They should pay you 100 grand. And there's ways to work the offer so that you're charging something up front, and then for, based off of performance or whatever, then you can get paid that extra. I mean, that's exactly what we had at Credo, which I just told you about. People value expensive things a lot higher, right? And not everyone can afford it, even though they want to afford it, right? Like you think about a luxury like handbag, like an Hermes handbag, for example. Like not everyone can get it. Not every woman or whoever wants it can get a Birkin bag, right? That's why more people want it, which is why their price is where it is. So our goal is to be oversubscribed and also to be premium, so that we're working with people who value our work the most. But what I want you to remember is that you shouldn't just charge what your time is worth. You should charge what the work is worth to the person who is receiving the service. So that's the way that we don't just cover our costs or cover our bases, right? And grow up to where our expenses are covered, but actually start to get ahead. And so many people are not getting ahead. And ultimately, I want you to get ahead because that's where things really unlock, right? We can be a lot more generous. We can have more time in our life. We can hire people to do things that they love to do that maybe we hate to do. That was another big unlock for me when it came to hiring. But these are the two things that you really need to do. If you're stuck, you have to get time back by doing a time audit, and you get profit back in your business by raising your rates, which also ends up getting you more in demand. All right, y'all. Hope that helps. I'm John Doherty. I coach agency owners. And if you are stuck in this place and you want my help getting unstuck, first, just go ahead and implement this. Like I'm giving you everything that I know and everything that I've been through. But if you want help, implementing it in your own business, in your own life, and even taking your agency to the next level, like my goal is to get you to $500,000+ a year in revenue. And if you want to grow your business to that too, have a lot of profit, have a lot of time. I haven't worked more than 30 hours a week in many, many years and made a great income. So if that's you, go to johnfdoherty.com/coaching, and I would love to speak with you there. And if you want to, go over to go over to instagram.com/DohertyJF and DM me the word magic offer, one word, magic offer. And I will send you the PDF that I work with my private clients through to outline the offer that they should be making to their clients that are going to get more of them to say yes at a premium price. So thanks for watching, y'all. See you later.